Bites. This is Random Rob. I had some mixed feelings recently after watching Europa Report by director Sebastian Cordero and looked up some reviews on RottenTomatoes.com to see what others were saying. Reviews of the film were generally positive, and some mentioned that Europa Report was a better found-footage style thriller than Apollo 18, which was generally dismissed by critics. I found this somewhat disconcerting because I felt that Apollo 18 succeeded very well in trying to be a horror film, whereas Europa Report seemed to be trying to be a serious science fiction film, but being conflicted in its own design. Today I'd like to compare some elements of the films. If you do not wish to hear any spoilers of either film, please stop watching now. In Apollo 18, the crew of the Liberty module are menaced by an alien form of life that camouflages itself as moon rocks. The creatures seem to propagate in the crater bottoms where there is no sunlight and near absolute zero temperatures, and are responsible for radio and electronic disruptions in the film, implying that the creatures may be a life based on superconducting crystals, a kind of electric life, and not wholly implausible. There are also elements of body horror, as one of the rocks gets under the skin of one of the astronauts, causing disturbing changes in his behavior and thinking. This story references an original series Outer Limits episode called Corpus Earthling, based on a short story of the same name by Louis Charbonneau, about shape-changing crystalline entities who appear as ordinary rocks, who possess and consume their human victims. Europa Report references a chapter from Arthur C. Clarke's 2010 Odyssey 2, in which a Chinese astronaut crew's Europa lander is destroyed by a light-sensitive form of algae that consumes their ship. In the Peter Hyams film adaptation, there is a tense scene where the crew of the Alexei Leonov launch a survey probe to look for life on Europa, which is destroyed by a burst of radiation when it gets too close to sighting it. This scene from 2010 is a condensed version of the whole plot of Europa Report, as their ship is destroyed by a light-sensitive, radioactive creature living under the ice. Narratively, both films choose different modes, even though both are told through assembled footage. Apollo 18 moves procedurally, giving us quick snippets of the mission activity, culminating in the realization something is stalking them, and building tension from there on as their options for escape are whittled down to nothing. This does well creating a sense of isolation by keeping us focused on the two leads, one of whom may be being taken over by a malevolent entity. Europa Report, on the other hand, proceeds for the first half in an out-of-order fashion, with narrative voiceovers by the mission manager expressing her sadness for the loss of the mission, and also by the primary female lead, in expositional dialogue that seems to be occurring after the fact, until a final act reveal that she is still on Europa and about to die. Scenes with Charlton Copley, who played Wickus in District 9, give warmth to the film's first act, but his character is referenced as dead from the get-go, and his scenes build up to a dramatic climax early in the film that seems overwrought, in that it's very on the nose about the noble sacrifice of people who go into space. There is nothing wrong with this message, but it doesn't bring anything to the film other than being a thematic anchor for each further death, giving the film a heavy-handed and tired feeling by the end. There's something awkward about trying to be serious about the science in the film, but then falling into a horror thriller context late in the film, with a final reveal of a squid-like glowing monster that we only see for a few seconds. Europa Report doesn't build its monster into its narrative. It just flashes it at the end and pulls the curtain. As a thriller, it's leaden. As a horror film, it doesn't work very well. As a science fiction film, it is outshined by the probe sequence from 2010. Apollo 18's monster may be absurd, but they are carefully introduced as the film proceeds, building tension and curiosity with little to no exposition from the main characters. The dark craters become the basement with the monster in it. The crew has to escape or be killed. The film has stakes. Europa Report introduces the crew as doomed, attaches importance to the crew sending their video message home, but doesn't give the characters any hope for escape. The stakes are muddled. It's hard to care, especially when you're repeatedly told why you should. Documentary-style films should show, not tell. My personal verdict? I feel Apollo 18 is an underappreciated horror gem, and Europa Report, while having good intentions, is a film at odds with the requirements of its genre. That's all till next week. If you like what you heard, please like this video and add me to your YouTube subscriptions, and feel free to leave any questions or comments in the field provided. Till next time.